The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contests, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/The Podcasting Dead.
It's time to What If The Walking Dead. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. And I think the intro gave you enough, but just a quick recap. If you are in the podcast, consider checking out our channel because we podcast about a lot of things from The Walking Dead to the paranormal to conspiracies to just, what's going on in the world. So without further ado, it's that time of the week until The Walking Dead comes back. Now, remember, once The Walking Dead comes back, Walking Dead What Ifs will be put on hold, and we'll resume talk, because we're going to have two shows to talk about, The Walking Dead and then A World Beyond. So that's what our Mondays are going to consist of. So you've only got like 2 weeks or a week and a half. You don't have long, so make sure to get those Walking Dead What Ifs in there. Maybe the weekend before, because I think this weekend is the final weekend before, and then the next weekend on the 4th, the episode comes out. So maybe next week we'll start early and do like an extravaganza of What If, since it'll be put on pause for a while. But nonetheless, JP as always has those Walking Dead What If scenarios that we are going to discuss, submitted by you, the listener. JP, what are we starting out with, man?
There's a lot of them this week. We starting out with Jimmy Schneider. From what I understand, a cousin of Rob Schneider. What if Beth got stuck with Merle instead of Daryl? She would still get drunk, but maybe also end up at the Barn of Pleasures.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't think Merle really cares much about age of consent or anything like that, especially after the law is gone. And was Beth over 18 at that point when they got drunk at the cabin?
It's so hard to tell, man,
right.
like what age range she was, because Emily Kinney is actually a year older than us. Like she ages very gracefully. I mean, she looks young, but she's actually about a year older than I am. Almost 2 years older than you are.
Oh my God.
But in this show, I don't know. It was weird, because if you remember back, we had so many weird Beth moments where, no, you know what? She had to be close, because remember, there's a scene where she's sitting with Axel in the jail cell, and Beth is holding the baby, and Axel asks her, "How old are you?" And she's like 17, and he goes, 17? Why, isn't that interesting, or something like that. And that's when Carol calls him outside, and she's like, I need to talk to you. And then he's basically like, look, I'm sorry, but, everybody's got somebody, and you're a lesbian, because of the hair. Remember that?
Yeah.
But right before that, Beth had let in that she was 17. So she was 17, maybe 18 by the point. I'd have to go back and watch it, kind of add up the time.
Okay.
But that was when Axel was alive, because you got to remember, that was right before, that was right when, because Axel died when the governor, seriously attacked. He
did.
And then you did have that little space between, the terrible season 3 finale where they could have just ended the governor right then and there, but just decided, we're going to scare him away. Go on, governor, get out of here. We're going to kill you next time, even though you've already tried to kill us, and you have killed some of us, but we ain't going to kill you. Just go on, get out of here.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, she might have crossed that 18 line there at some point, but I feel like, now, I don't know, though, man. It just depends if Merle would have went. Because you got to imagine if Merle was here in this scenario, he didn't die with the governor's whole thing. It just depends on what path he took, man. Because Merle definitely showed some selflessness, which I still believe he did all of that more for Daryl than the rest of them. I don't think his sacrifice would have probably happened had Daryl not been with, or if Daryl was, I don't know, let's say Daryl just left and was gone. I don't know for sure that Merle would have sacrificed himself or put himself. I don't think he planned to sacrifice himself. I think he knew there was a good chance he could die, but I think, of course he was hoping he could just roll up in there and kill all of them and be back. But man, if he'd went with, I don't know that he would have raped her or anything, but I definitely think her getting drunk, she'd have wound up getting a little freaky with Merle.
Yeah, he wouldn't. No, I don't think he would have raped her, but he definitely wouldn't have held back. You know what I'm saying?
What are you doing, Merle? Well, I can't leave the blade on my nub.
Yeah.
What is that? You gonna find out, sugar. I got a dildo, y'all. But I don't know. I definitely feel, to be completely honest with you, and I know I might catch some backlash for this, and that's fine. You know, opinions are like assholes. We all have them. But I found the Beth and Daryl team up episodes, if you've been listening for a long time, you're rolling your eyes because you know this. But I found that to be some of the most boring, aside from Beth in the hospital, I found that to be some of the most boring Walking Dead. Like, I didn't mind it when it was like there was like 2 episodes, I believe, and one was solely focused on them, and the other one was, it had its moments, but that was some of my least favorite points of The Walking Dead. I feel like it would have been a little bit more interesting with Merle. I mean, all sex jokes aside, I mean, Merle's a lot more complex of a character than Daryl is.
Yeah, he is. I would have liked to have seen Merle stick around, but what are you going to do? I
mean, Daryl's redemption arc really didn't take that long. Season 1, we first meet him, he's an asshole. By the end of the season, he's still an asshole, but not quite as much of an asshole. Season 2, Season 2 was Daryl's most growth, I think, because, you had him where he was becoming part of the group, and then halfway through, he was like camping out in the field away from them and wanted nothing to do with them. And then, by the end, he was back with them and everything was hunky-dory. And season 3 on, he's been Rick's best friend. So I feel like Merle had a longer ways to go than Daryl did in terms of becoming like a...
Yeah, you can say that again.
Being a redeemed character. Oh, but great question.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Give our regards to your cousin Rob.
Yeah, please do. James Gallegos has a couple. What if Michonne bought into Woodbury? Like, bought a timeshare there, maybe, invested in the community. It would have turned it around, She could have formed like a city council. I think if she really had have invested in that community, it might have changed things for the better in a big way.
More playgrounds.
Yeah. I really think she would have been like a Leslie Knope of Parks. I think she would have improved it.
All right, but for real though, if let's think about that question. So if Michonne got into Woodbury, which if she would, number one, let me just say that if Michonne would have bought into it, she wouldn't have been the Michonne that we love.
Right.
That's part of what makes Michonne such an amazing character. She has no tolerance for bullshit. Like, she got there and just knew, I feel like she wouldn't have been Michonne if she would have bought into it. But just for the sake of the discussion, what do you think it would have been like, JP, if she just was just as fooled as Andrea was? Do you think what do you think would have happened?
Well, I think what it would have taken is basically the Commonwealth story arc to play out at Woodbury. Like, maybe she finds a Melody there and she's like, well, my daughter's here. She's got a life for herself. We better make the best of a bad situation. And, I don't think she would have boned the governor, but she would have reformed the society.
I feel like it would have been bad, man, because I feel like if Michonne would have been gullible enough because we saw the alternate Michonne with the Savior. I love that scene, by the way. Can I just say again, like the evil Michonne? Remember on her final episode? I feel like it would have played out much in the same way, but with the governor. Now, Rick's group would have been in a little bit more trouble because if Michonne was after your ass, I mean, that would have been a tough. Michonne's someone you don't want to be after you. I mean, even while she was being pursued and was not even actively coming after them, she took out a lot of Merle's men.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. How do you think? How do you think it would have played out? Do you think that, let's say Michonne gets there and her and Andrea both? Do you think she would have become one of the governor's lieutenants? I mean, how do you think, in that scenario, where do you see it going?
I mean, I don't see her taking innocent life. Like, when Merle and his boys rolled up on that little army unit,
Mm-hmm.
just mowed them down. I don't think she would have done things like this.
No. So long story short, I don't think it would have happened. I mean, I know that's not really what ifs are we're supposed to go through. I mean, like I said, if Michonne would have fallen for that, then she wouldn't have been. That's what we started loving Michonne, is when she was just able to see right through this facade that clearly had Andrea just entranced,
Well, it was a safe haven, when they really hadn't found one in so long.
And you're right. You're exactly right. And that's not my problem with Andrea, the fact that she just fell. I mean, I get it. Like, you've been on the road for so long, and Andrea, unlike Michonne, Michonne was at that refugee camp, but had been on the road by herself for a while.
Yeah.
Andrea wasn't used to being alone. I mean, she had the group at the camp, and then they were at the farm. I mean, she was used to being part of a community, and after being on the road for so long and just having as rough a go at it as she did, I mean, it's perfectly understandable that you would overlook some things when you first get back into civilization, just because you're so excited to be around people and have walls and all of that. It's once everything started happening that I started hating her, just in the sense of like, okay, by this point you've been fed, you've had shelter, you should be thinking a little more clearly now. You're not fresh off the road. You've got to be seeing what the governor's doing.
So you got to remember, Andrea had like a flu that almost killed her. Yeah.
Which miraculously went away after one night at Woodbury. You notice that?
Yeah, they must have had some penicillin or something.
Yeah, like she had been on the road and was just like on death's doorstep, and then she gets there and, which I think they said she was dehydrated. They hooked her up some IVs or something, but I mean, she really turned around in one night.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if Michonne would have stayed, I don't see a scenario. I believe it still would have played out much the same, because like JP said, once she would have witnessed them like killing innocent people and doing some sketchy governor type ish, Michonne would have probably just killed the governor and dipped out. Hell, if she would have bought into it, the governor might have actually died, because then she would have gotten close enough to make it happen.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Andrea's dumbass, she would have done it.
Possibly.
I mean, she had him pretty much dead to rights back there in the head tank room, and then freaking Andrea had to roll in there.
Yeah, that would have been a crazy scene to walk in on. Golly. Here's another good one. From James. What if Walter White from Breaking Bad, do you remember, was saved by Abraham?
That would be cool, but I mean, like, did Abraham roll into the shootout at the end of season 5 and say, "Stand down"?
He must have. I could see that.
I mean, as far as I know, Walter White is dead, and I definitely was buying into like the Film Theory channel, where they had an interesting case for how almost out of their way the writing was for, Walter White possibly surviving at the end. But once the Jesse movie came out, El Camino, and Walter White never showed up, I've pretty much just accepted he's dead, unless he's going to pop up in Better Call Saul. But
I believe he may still be out there. I don't know, though.
But, if he survived that, I imagine he went to prison. In which case, I'm not sure how Abraham saved him, but I mean, I would love to see a Heisenberg type character, or just Bryan Cranston on The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Oh boy, that would have been a trip. One more from James. What if Michonne, who was controlling... Now, you're going to like this one, okay?
I'll be the judge of that.
You're going to like it. What if Michonne, who was controlling walkers before the Whisperers, became a Whisperer after Rick was lost on the bridge? She would challenge Alpha. She would win.
Oh, without a doubt.
What's next?
Oh, man. So this one's cool. We got to put our thinking caps on for this one. I'm going to need your feedback, too, on this. What do you think? So Michonne kills Alpha.
She's the new Alpha.
And she's taking over the Whisperers. Number one, even though that is how their hierarchy works, do you think that Beta would ever submit to someone who killed Alpha?
It seems like he kind of gives in to powerful women, and she is a powerful woman.
So he didn't give in to Negan, but you think if Michonne were the one to take out Alpha, that Beta would follow her?
I think as long as Michonne let him peel off Alpha's face to add to his mask, he'd probably be cool.
So can you? But I mean, that is a really good what if scenario. But it's like, I don't think she'd be. There wouldn't be a Whisperer war then, because I don't feel that. I don't feel like Michonne would go against her former group. I know that they've had their issues, but I mean, Michonne would not be out there trying to take out the hilltop.
No, I think they'd just be out there living off the land.
Yeah, I think that honestly, if Michonne would have become a Whisperer and challenged Alpha and beat Alpha, if everyone, I mean, I feel like everyone, Beta's the only one I don't know about him. We saw how quick those others were like, "You're the one who killed Alpha." you're the new alpha to Negan.
Yeah.
So most would follow her, and I feel like it would be a lot more peaceful. I feel like, at least for our main group, I don't feel like Michonne would lead an attack on the hilltop. I mean, I know she's grief-stricken over Rick dying, but two, I just don't see that happening, because Michonne wouldn't leave Judith, and then she ended up having RJ.
Yeah.
You know, so she would have probably made the Whisperers better, to be honest.
I think, it's much like with Woodbury. I think she would have reformed, and they would have, moved into a more peaceful way of existence.
Absolutely.
So that's some good stuff, James. You're a beautiful man. Marcos Andrade, I said that wrong. Marcos, we'll just call him Marcos. What if Rick got his hand taken off like in the comics?
I was waiting for that, and I found it interesting that they were like, the main reason we didn't is because it would just be too hard to CGI that the whole time. And it's like, well, not that I'm a stickler for you had to do it, but, look at how you did with Merle. If anything, Merle could have been the catalyst to how you did that. You know what I mean? Like, if Rick had lost his hand, you could have had Daryl bring back Merle's hand thing for Rick and been like, here, Merle's not going to need it anymore. And Rick could have just, the actor, Andrew Lincoln, could have just worn that over his hand, but I don't know, man. They seriously thought about it. And if you recall, JP, you and I both thought, I think, during season 8, perhaps, where he had, cut his hand really bad.
Yeah, that was going to be it.
I think it was season 8. Season 7 or 8, somewhere in that range. I thought it was actually during All Out, because season 7 really wasn't All Out War because they weren't fighting them yet.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it fell in and it fell in there somewhere. But I remember and I think a lot of folks thought that Rick was going to lose his hand, like they were finally going to get to that. But I feel like it would have played. I feel like if he lost his hand in the show, it would have played out a lot like the comics. He was still a beast without his hand.
Oh yeah.
He would have still been a beast up until he died if Negan hadn't snapped his leg the way he did in the comics.
Yeah,
because he had to walk with a cane and stuff after that. So, Rick would have adjusted. The comic takes time to mention that he was shooting. He lost his right hand.
Yeah,
and he was a right-handed shooter, and so he had to kind of relearn how to shoot with his left hand and all of that. But I think he would have still been just as badass.
I think so.
I think he would have fared fine, and I don't think it would have changed the story that much.
No, just presented a new obstacle. But good suggestion, Marcos. That would have been cool to see play out for sure. We got one from Bernardus Andrew. Now he's got a long statement that's pretty interesting. Merle was a much better and complex character in my opinion, as opposed to his
talking about that.
His grunting and being a badass posing for every shot in the episode Little Brother. Merle brought in complexity and anti-heroism that we fell in love with Shane. Remember Shane? Yeah, that's Shane. And I need to point out anti-heroism is the reason we fell in love with Rick Grimes and Negan as well. So yeah, I wish Merle survived the 3rd season and witnessed Daryl die at the season 4 mid-season finale because Rucker, that's how you say his name, right? Yeah,
Roker.
Michael Roker. Was a much better actor in any day than Reedus. Sorry. So there's some bold statements. And
let's discuss before you get into the question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say he's I think he's a great actor, and I don't know that I'd necessarily say he's 10 times better than Norman Reedus, but I can definitely see where his time on The Walking Dead had much more complexities than Daryl. I agree with everything in that statement. I just don't know. As far as the Daryl and the Michael Roker being a better actor than Norman Reedus, you could be 100% correct, but I would have to actually go back and watch Boondock Saints and some other stuff that Norman Reedus has been in. Because the thing is Norman Reedus plays Daryl the redneck very well, and Norman Reedus in real life, he does work on motorcycles and stuff. He's a little bit more of a greaser, but he's not much on being a redneck at all. If anything, he seems kind of, I don't want to say prissy, but he's Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's very, I don't know. I think that he's a very convincing redneck country boy compared to how he is in real life, which is just me just saying. I think his acting's not terrible by any means, but I'd have to see him side by side. But I agree with everything else. But I also don't understand because Andrew Lincoln won an award. I don't know if it was an Emmy or what, but he won an award for being like best anti-hero. I've never considered Rick an anti-hero because Rick's always tried to do or ended up doing what was right. I mean, once you get later into the show, I guess, like season 6, killing off all those people in the sanctuary, that was kind of an anti-hero move. But like when I think of anti-heroes, I think of like Jax from Sons of Anarchy or Ragnar from Vikings, or these people that do very questionable things. Rick, for the first few seasons, didn't do things that were very questionable. In fact, that was him and Shane's whole problem, was that Rick refused to do the anti-hero things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was Shane's biggest beef with Rick, was the fact that Rick wouldn't kill Randall. Rick wouldn't make these tough calls. Like Rick wouldn't have killed Otis. You know, and those are things
really no reason for Shane to kill Otis.
No, I still think they could have. I still think they could have made it, but like those are anti-hero moves. Like when somebody does some evil, bad schnit, but you're pulling for them, kind of like on The Boys. Now, yeah. Butcher is an anti-hero.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like he is not a good guy, but you're pulling for him.
Yeah.
But and that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong. I'm saying that's how I look at it. Is I don't really see Rick as an anti-hero, at least for the first few seasons. Past season 4, after the prison, I could see Rick being somewhat of an anti-hero. After the season 4 mid-season finale, that's when Rick might kind of cross into that anti-hero. But at the same time, for me, that's a gray area, because you look at the way he killed a lot of people at Terminus, but also look at the fact of what they were doing.
Right.
You know, to me, an anti-hero would have to make the hard choice of just going in and clearing out all these people so that his group could survive.
Yeah.
Like, remember the camp the governor found when he was with Martinez's people after, and they came back and somebody had already raided it and killed all those people. Yeah. Like, if Rick was in that scenario and he agreed, like, yeah, we're going to have to kill them and take their stuff. To me, that's more anti-hero, and it would have weighed heavy on him. I'm not saying he does it coldly, but after doing that, that's like an anti-hero move. Like, you're still pulling for him, but he just did some horrible shit. And before then, Rick wasn't doing things like that. If you remember in season 4, at the beginning, he goes off with that really weird woman in the woods, and despite her clearly being mentally unstable, and he was still willing to bring her and her husband back to their group. So that was a pretty hero thing, I think. But anyways, long story short, I just did, at least not until after the season 4 finale, I wouldn't have considered Rick an anti-hero, and he had won that award during that span, like seasons 1 through 4, 4.5. But Merle would definitely be an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Merle is someone that you shouldn't like, but you're pulling for him.
Well, we got some more points. Bernadette Andrew goes on to say, what if Andrea in the show goes through the same stuff as she did in the comics, hooking up with Dale, adopting Lizzie and Mika, losing Lizzie and Mika to Carl, witnessing Dale getting eaten by the Terminus cannibals, hooking up with Rick, adopting Carl, tying, beaten up by a savior, before dying, getting bitten on the neck, and inspired Rick to enforce peace in the world rather than fighting one day to another.
Man, I mean, that's not that's an awesome picture you paint. It's not much what ifing there, because it kind of goes, all the way through the whole thing. But I think it would have been great. I think we all wanted Andrea to be as awesome as she was in the comics.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that was kind of like Tyrese. We just kind of got like a watered down version. But I mean, I think that it would have been very interesting, because when she says, adopting Lizzie and Mika and losing them to Carl, that's like the Billy situation, right? Like talking about the kids, where one kid killed the other, so then Carl sneaks into his tent and kills him for killing the kid, and that's when Rick realizes how cold his son's becoming. Yeah. Yeah,
no, we had the comic had a lot of really cool dark points that weren't really touched on in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really a cool idea. Just comic Carol, or not comic Andrea, being inserted into the Walking Dead show.
Look how many of how much of her story was divided amongst other characters.
Yeah,
Carol got part of her story arc. Michonne got part of her story arc. Sasha got a part of her a little bit of her story arc. Just I say that more with Sasha becoming like the sniper. and a really good shot and all of that, because in the comics, Andrea was a really good shot, which they kind of touched on in the show, and then, just killed it when they killed her. But, a lot of her comic attributes were divided up amongst a lot of different people in the show.
Yeah, it was. Up next, man, and we'll see how the best way to do this. We've got Simba Trey with he's got a 2-parter, and the second one is pretty lengthy. I don't know if that maybe warrants like warrants maybe like a second, like a little like sidebar podcast later this week.
Maybe so.
It
yeah,
might, because it'll pretty much eat up about all the rest of the pro. But man, we've got to like do it because it's really like just skimming it, man. He just paints a picture like you wouldn't believe.
Have you read through it? Is there a way you can give like a watered down version?
I can't summarize. No, dude, no, I cannot.
Well, what about his other part?
All right, let's start at the top. What if season 2 officer-friendly version of Rick went with Otis instead of Shane and was in the same situation dilemma with no way out as Shane was? Would Rick have shot Otis in cold blood like Shane? Would Dale have gave Rick Dale face and viewed him as a monster the same way he did Shane for killing Otis, and even give him the "I know what kind of man you are" speech, LOL? Or would Rick have sacrificed himself? And if so, how would things change if Rick actually did sacrifice himself to let Otis bring a device to save his son, Carl?
Well, see here,
I don't really remember it being like, did Shane really need to do that?
I didn't. I know they both were injured, but they were ahead of the herd.
They were a few good steps ahead. I know Otis is a fat dude. He's kind of limping or whatever. But I
could have seen it much more of like when they were in the gym, if all them zombies would have been on the floor and Shane had no way out and he shot at Otis. Right. And then, but no, I'm with you. I know for a story arc, there was no way they could have made it, but I truly felt like they could have just limped along till they got to the truck and took off. But, that's the thing, too. We talk about, again, going back to Rick being an anti-hero. Why I say Rick's not an anti-hero, because look at this. Has Rick ever sacrificed any of his people? No, not one. Rick is not one to sacrifice his own people. And I know one might argue, well, Otis wasn't his people. But Rick's not the kind of person that would have... Season 5 Rick, probably. Season 5, maybe 6 Rick would have maybe sacrificed Otis, just because he had become such a hard ass at that point. Again, the point where I say he was kind of an anti-hero at that point, because his morality can be questioned once you get into the whole Negan saga. Some people even say that from Negan's perspective, Rick is the bad guy. Just waltzes into his satellite outpost and kills all of his men, I ain't even met this guy. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even have beef with you. So I can do the anti-hero Rick being like parts of season 5 and up, but back then, no, I don't think Rick would have shot him. I totally think Rick would have even sacrificed himself if it meant that Carl would.
If he had to, yeah.
But I don't think, I don't think Rick would have had to have sacrificed himself. I think Rick and Otis would have just trudged along till they got to the truck and then took off.
And what was even worse, man, like, he could have shot Otis in the head, and it still would have been a warm body. The walkers would have swarmed it. He like just shoots him in the leg or whatever, and he goes through the most horrific death you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
He's just eaten alive. Jesus, Shane. Like, that's why I was like, man, Shane's a straight up sadist. Like,
oh, yeah, no, I don't think for a second Rick would have shot Otis, because I don't think that they've been in more dire situations than that. I feel, you're at that point, you're not doing bad. You're ahead of the herd. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bunch of zombies, but no, I don't think Rick would have sacrificed Otis. And I don't think he would have sacrificed his life for Otis, but if he thought that Otis was in a position, he would sacrifice his life for Carl.
Yeah.
But if he thought, let's say Otis gets in the truck and he's got all the supplies and Rick realizes he can't get into the truck with it, then yes, I think he would have been willing to sacrifice himself if it meant Otis was, in a position to. But I don't think Rick would have killed Otis. I just don't think Rick was that cold at that point.
Nope. But good stuff. Some betrayal.
Was there more to it than that? I thought there was, because I don't feel like we would have gotten to the whole Dale face and all of that because Rick wouldn't have done it.
No, I don't think so either. And like I said, part 2 is just a very well-written, well-thought-out scenario where he pretty much plots out everything that would have happened, and we pick up. But like I said, that might be worth its own little 10, 20, 30-minute podcast.
Yeah, we could do that.
So it's just, like I said, or just devote the rest of this podcast to it and then come back to the other ones, do a part 2 later this week.
I think we should do a part 2 on Friday.
Okay.
We could map out that whole scenario and, read his whole scenario and make a whole podcast on that. Maybe on Friday.
All right. Well, then we shall move on. Taylor Madden, what if the comic Rick and Dwight scene is Yumiko and Kelly?
Oh, that'd be sad because I don't really care that much about Yumiko, but I like Kelly.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely 2 characters I'm not super
invested in though.
So, yeah, I mean... Yeah, that'd just be kind of all right, whatever.
That could happen because Yumiko definitely seems like she's probably going to be set up to take Michonne's Commonwealth arc, which I hate because I like Michonne way better.
Yeah. And
Michonne's part in the Commonwealth in the comics was actually really good. I mean, at one point you kind of sort of didn't like Michonne, and then, when they circle back, slight spoilers here, sorry. But as they circle back, and Carl's all grown up and stuff, and Michonne is you learn Michonne's last name.
Yeah.
She's become the judge of the Commonwealth, and I guess Yumiko is probably going to take that arc, which would mean, though, that if Michonne wasn't the one that shot, so that means Yumiko will be the one, because you think about it, Yumiko probably won't end up in that position because Yumiko is taking Michonne's arc, and Michonne was a part of it, but it was Rick that, spoilers again, sorry, but Rick was the one who shot Dwight.
Yeah.
Yumiko would be in the Michonne role. Michonne didn't shoot anybody. You got I think King Ezekiel might actually be involved. I hope not, but I feel like King Ezekiel might be one of those 2.
Yeah, could be. But
I hope not, but I could see that. I mean, but if Yumiko, I'm with JP. If Yumiko has to shoot Kelly or vice versa, my favorites of that new group were Luke and Connie, really, were my 2 favorites. And I did start really liking Kelly. She still hadn't worked her way up to my favorites because it wasn't until recently that I started really caring about her. But whereas, Luke, I've liked Luke since he first came on screen. He was an awesome character. And Connie was just, Connie's had so many. I still think one of the coolest scenes in The Walking Dead ever was Connie's point of view shot going through that cornfield with all of the walkers when she was saving the baby. Yeah. Connie gave us one of the coolest moments in the show, I feel. So, yeah, if they did, I'd be well, there was a waste to really rip our hearts apart. Yeah. It's going to have to be someone with the equivalence of a Rick and Dwight in order to make that scene, because that's something that sucks that they have to do a lot of times, is give these really powerful moments from the comics that just ripped us up to lesser characters that we don't really care about.
Right.
So if that happens, I'm gonna be Kelly, no,
yeah,
whatever.
It's not gonna. It's not gonna keep me up that night.
Whereas if it was Rick and Daryl, or even Rick and Dwight, because again, if you listen for a while, you'll know that I didn't like Dwight in the beginning, and then I started really liking him. Though on Fear, he's just kind of there. But it'd be heartbreaking. But Kelly and Yumiko, whatever.
Yeah. But good thing, Taylor. Allie Smith, what if Fear the Walking Dead ends with its 6th season, given that there will be quite a few time skips, according to Gimple, and only 5 of the characters get moved over to The Walking Dead? Who would you guys choose and why? I know not many people like her, but given that Althea has an interview tape labeled Abraham/Doctor, I would love to see her get to Alexandria and see Eugene and maybe Rosita if Althea couldn't fit her name on the label originally. So, which I guess that's almost like The Walking Dead would keep on going. At this point, they're wrapping up the whole show, so I don't see how that'd even be a possibility.
No, yeah. And hit the highlights of that again.
So, Fear the Walking Dead ends. Who would you want to see move over to The Walking Dead?
And I want Morgan and Dwight to go back to The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I really would like to see John Dory go to The Walking Dead.
That'd be cool.
I just hope he wouldn't get lost in all the other characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's really it. I mean, I would have said Alicia back in the day, but they tried. I know I'm going to sound like a douche here, but I just feel like they tried too hard to make her more badass than she is. Like, you know, being a badass in these stories is like evolving into a badass. And I mean, she did kind of evolve, but in season 4, man, it just was ramped up to a whole new level.
Yeah,
I mean, like even the stupid little promo trailer they had for season 4 where she's like in the air with that little muffler blade thing she has, and she's like legs back jumping, like looks like Spider-Man swinging on a rope. And it's like, she's not like, I remember seeing that promo thinking that is so stupid. Like, Alicia, I know it's just a promo poster and I'm overanalyzing, but I'm a critical person sometimes, and I'm like, that is so stupid. Like, we've never seen Alicia do anything on that level of badass. That was like a Jesus move.
Yeah.
So, you know, Alicia, I liked the character and I liked the actress, but I really wouldn't care. Mine. Oh no, Victor Strand. Victor Strand. How did we forget Victor Strand? Victor Strand, John Dorie, Morgan, and Dwight. That's who I want to leave from Fear and go to The Walking Dead. The rest, you took out Nick, who was, in my opinion, the most interesting character on the show. Took out Madison, who we came to find a lot of people hated, but JP and I both really liked her, Madison.
Man. And I hope we see her come back.
I really would like to see Madison make a return. But some of the best characters, Daniel would be cool.
Yeah, he would.
I mean, if I could throw in another, I would say Daniel, Victor Strand, and John Dorie. In which John Dorie, I don't know if it's so much that I like the character. I just really like Gareth Dillahunt as an actor. I think he's awesome. So it might be more based on the actor than the character, but John Dorie, Victor Strand, and Daniel would be like the cast, and then I want Morgan and Dwight to go back.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, Victor Strand would be awesome.
That's probably the only one you really care to see cross over.
Yeah, and I mean, because like you said, man, at this point, there's so many characters on The Walking Dead. I mean, I feel like they would just get kind of lost in the shuffle.
And as good as I think The Walking Dead has been, you gotta face the reality is that that show is not as good with juggling that many characters like other shows, like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones had a huge cast and was up until season 8, which in my mind never happened. We never know how Game of Thrones ended. Right. But up through season 7. I mean, they expertly juggled these characters. I mean, you sometimes wouldn't see a character for a few episodes, but when their story came back, you were right back on it. Like Game of Thrones and other shows, really understood how to juggle so many main characters and keep them all fresh and interesting and keep us invested. Whereas The Walking Dead, I love it. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite shows ever, but it doesn't do as well with that. Lost, I think, as many open-ended questions as that show wound up with. I feel like Lost even juggled this plethora of characters a little bit better than The Walking Dead does, because for so long The Walking Dead just put all of its chips on Daryl and Rick.
Yeah.
Like Daryl and Rick were the two that were the moneymakers. So Michonne, she got some attention, and because Denai Guerreras just did so well with the character, she moved on up. But I mean, we saw so many characters get sidebarred just so we could have more Rick and Daryl moments.
Yeah, man. Well, one of my favorite shows that basically committed suicide by just having too many characters and too many story arcs. True Blood, man. It was awesome for like 2 seasons. 3 was still all right, but it just, they got to juggling too much, and a lot of that had to do with showrunners.
I never watched that.
Like I said, man, the first 2 seasons were just balls to the wall, awesome. I want to say the showrunner from 6 Feet Under was the guy who originally did True Blood, but like I said, they ended up juggling so many different showrunners and writers and this and that it just they shit the bed on it. But.
Well, we've said it before, but you can kind of watch shows where like it was written by like 1 or 2 people. You had the same writers throughout the entire show. Versus The Walking Dead, I mean, how many times do you hear, this episode was written by so-and-so and so-and-so, and we actually had Greg Nicotero directing it. Then the next episode was written by the very talented some other person, and we had this person direct it. You know what I mean? So it's like you got
of a unified vision.
Yeah, so many different people that, as much as they love the show, probably see it different in their head when reading the script. Whereas if you keep it to like a very small group of people, they have this singular vision that they execute through the writing. And I think that's always been one of The Walking Dead's biggest problems is just, I don't know, man. If we could just go back, Frank Darabont could have been like the show's Vince Gilligan, like he wrote Breaking Bad and he's writing Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've kept the same writer the entire time, and Frank Darabont was very hands-on with his vision. And I would like to see an alternate universe where we could watch where the show is where it is, but Frank Darabont's been in charge of it, just to see where it would be. I ain't saying it would necessarily be better, but I would like to see where it would go.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he had a much grittier, I don't know, it just felt more hopeless kind of with Frank Darabont, if that makes sense.
It did. It did in a big way. But still, that's some good stuff. And, man, we're getting ready to go into weird territory.
Oh, that's what we specialize in.
Getting ready to get weird. Okay. What if 2 new cast members were added to season 7 named Justin and JP? Former BFFs who used to do a podcast together called The Barn of Pleasures. Plot twist, they are on opposite sides. Justin is on Team Rick at Alexandria and JP with the Saviors. Would they switch sides to become friends again, or would they become enemies and fight to the death, and who would win?
I'd like to think we would, once we found out the other was on the other side, one of us would switch sides.
Oh, you'd have to go into the Saviors, man.
Well, we would run off together and just say the hell with both of them.
Oh, the Saviors, you got ass on tap, you got jars of pickles, you got Vigi games.
So what you're hearing is that JP, my friendship, it really doesn't mean shit to JP, and that if you can offer him better, then that friendship's just gone.
In that world, man, I'd be like, bro, I can get you in on a sweet deal. You're going to have to do some muffed up stuff.
What if Negan ordered you to kill me, or you were out of the set? Like, he was not, it wasn't one of those things where he was like, if you don't kill him, I'll kill you both, because then I would understand. I'd be like, JP, just kill me, because there ain't no sense in not killing me and then you dying too. But like one of those situations where he's like, either you kill him or you pack your shit and you leave.
Dude, Negan, it wouldn't be. He would end up melting both our faces together like a grilled
Negan likes to
cheese.
play games with people, man.
I know, and I see through his games.
So you would kill me to keep your comfort. I'm a little hurt. I really was expecting that you would be like, no, I'm hurt. You'd kill me to keep your fucking pickles.
Look, I'm a great negotiator. I'm a great deal maker. I could leverage your freedom.
I don't think so.
I could do it.
Like right now, he finds out that somebody goes, oh, I remember those. They were on a podcast together. Like he knows that we were former friends.
You think like Dan Ashdown is there and he's just like, holy smokes.
I don't think he talks so country, but he's a Brit, so he'd probably be like, hey, Negan, I used to listen to a podcast with these people. God, I don't know. Wait a minute.
Now he's going on straight.
Yeah, I used to do really good English accents, but what was it? We were actually on a chat with Dan Ashtown, my friend Joey and I did a British accent that he said was actually really good, and he told Joey that his was terrible. But let me see. Crumpets and tea, blah, blah, blah. How do I do my British accent? All right, so he'd be like, hey, Negan. I know these guys. He's still Australian. What the fuck? Okay, we'll come back to Dan Ashtown when I can get my head right and do an English accent. But okay, well, based on what I'm hearing, that whole fight to the death question, I would fucking kill JP now.
No.
Like, there's no question about it. Fight to the death, I win, JP will fucking die.
It would be kind of like when Merle and Daryl had to go up against each other in that circle.
And they broke away and were going to run away together. But you told me you wouldn't be willing to leave the comfort of the Saviors.
Well, this is a little different. I think I could...
you can't broker a deal.
I think I could massage you into the fold, but you would have to be willing to compromise your morals.
I mean, so basically the answer to your question, no. If JP's comfortable... Now let's switch the shit.
Okay.
You're with Rick in the group, and I'm with the Saviors. I've got pickles, hot women, and the sanctuary. You gonna come over to my side?
I couldn't sell out my brothers.
You're such an asshole. You're such an asshole. So fight to the death, JP and I remember this conversation, and I really didn't have any problem killing him in the one-on-one fight to the death.
Oh, gosh.
You dick.
No. All right. Good one.
You dick. Yeah, good one. You broke up the podcast. We're done now.
Tallulah876.
Thanks, Tallulah.
All right, moving on to another difficult name.
You're a dick. I'm just going to continue to throw that out from here forward. You're a dick. Here I am thinking if I was in that situation, man, if I had to, I would totally pull a Merle and just, leave everything to save JP. And now I'm hearing that JP wouldn't compromise Rick in the group, but he would certainly let me die if it meant he got to keep his fucking pickles.
I'm a pragmatist, but
I don't even think you know what that means.
I know enough. Yuvraj, kinda. Here's a what if. What if Shane survived to go up against Beta? I think we actually talked about this.
We did. You didn't answer one question. You and I are fighting to the death because you've put me in a precarious situation, and now I've got you alone, and we're fighting to the death. Who's going to win?
Well, there's this, what's it called? Where basically you can slow down your respiration and your heart rate to the extent to where it seems as though you're dead.
So you would let me beat you until you faked your death.
And then I would still enjoy all my comforts of the
Okay, you can't fake the ending when I rip your throat out.
No, that wouldn't happen.
It would totally happen.
No.
I would absolutely now, if we end up in that situation and the world ends, your esophagus is coming out of your neck. I can promise you that.
I have a very strong esophagus.
Let's see you. Oh, boy. My feelings are, this is not how I wanted to start a Monday.
No.
You dick.
No. Like I said, I'd be looking out for everyone.
You wouldn't be looking out for me, apparently. All you care about are women and pickles.
Well, they're both important.
And I don't think those pickles were even dill. It looked like they were just cucumbers sitting in water.
Yeah, I would have went to enjoy a nice pickle and then be like...
Long story short, if I had it in my head that JP was the way he's talking, I would kill him.
No.
It would not be a long battle. I would end him.
Well, Yuvraj, kinda. Again, we talked about this a week or so ago. Beta versus Shane. We said Beta would probably have the.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking now, if Shane had survived up to the point of Beta, then I think Shane would take it to him if Daryl did, because we talked about this at length last podcast, because I said, I think that, because I asked JP, I believe, I was like, who you think would have won between Shane and Daryl in season 2? And you had said Shane, and I was like, yeah, I thought so too. So if Daryl could beat Beta, which we know season 2 Daryl probably wouldn't have beat Beta, it's everything he's been through up to that point that had made him tough enough to take on Beta. If Shane survived that long, then I totally think Shane would have a chance to beat Beta as well. But season 2 Shane, I don't think any of them would have known what to do if you would have had this 6'4" guy wearing dead skin Michael Myers in your ass.
Yeah, Shane might have been out of his element on that one, but yeah. And oh gosh, sorry y'all. I promise it's not the corona.
No, it's karma.
Maybe I just...
That's where me from another universe has kicked your ass so hard you're feeling the effects of it here in this one.
No. We've got another one, and this is Yuv. Call me Yuv, so that makes it easier.
Hi, Yuv.
Another one from Yuv says, I know my name is hard to say, I'm brown, so just call me Yuv.
That's what the comment says?
Yeah, it says... I know my name's hard to say. I'm brown. I do have difficulty with brown people's names.
I don't think that's a thing, man. You're perfectly fine. We don't care. I love, though, with Mitch Hedberg's old stand-up where he's like, I always hear people say, I'm not racist. I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, purple, pink. Hold on now. Why are there purple people?
Yeah.
I don't think I would trust the purple people.
No, I wouldn't either.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Continue. But we don't care what color you are. We're just glad to have you on the podcast.
Oh, UV. His nickname is UV. My nicknames. So here's another one. What if Rick and Shane versus Negan and the Governor happened, assuming that Negan and the Governor run into each other and want to take Rick and Shane's group down, assuming they're co-leaders now. I'm not talking about the groups, I'm saying just 2 versus 2, who would win. So
number one, you keep coughing because in another universe, I did what I said and I ripped your esophagus out of your freaking throat. Now you're laying on the ground, coughing, gasping for air, and bleeding out, thinking, damn, I should have just given up the pickles to save my boy.
I took too many bong rips last night. That's all it is.
No. You don't even smoke weed.
No, of course not. But yeah.
I think that Negan and the governor would probably have that one. If we're talking about season 2, Rick and Shane. Again, it's all circumstantial. Like in this situation, didn't Shane survive up to this point? Like if him and Rick had put his differences aside, and they had survived this long together, possibly. But here's the thing, man. Rick's more or less gotten his ass whipped by both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, having Shane there would definitely help him out, but I mean, some people say they think Shane won the fight between he and Rick. I tend to think it was more tit for tat because, I mean, Rick got in a few shots, Shane got in a few shots. I mean, I think Rick came out of it looking way better than Shane did. I mean, Shane's face was muffed up. Like, Rick beat the hell out of him, at least at some point in that fight. So I like to think of Shane and Rick more tit for tat when it comes to throwing hands. And the governor, which... I know the arguments. Rick had been shot in the leg. Rick was still hurt from his fight with Tyrese. He was exhausted. They'd been up that whole night fighting off. I mean, Rick was, he was not fresh-faced and ready in the way that the governor was. I feel like the governor had a slight advantage just as far as his physical well-being. And Rick definitely took it to him, but still, we know the governor is no slouch with hand-to-hand combat. And Negan, we know Negan can throw down. I don't know, man. I feel like if you were time traveling and somehow Negan just pops up and is like, Governor, I want to offer you a proposal. Because, I imagine in this scenario, Negan's trying to go back in time and kill Rick so that he's never having to deal with him, and he's like, I know you happen to have a problem with this man, Rick Grimes. Well, I do too. Let's go, whatever. I feel like there's a chance that season, the current iteration, I don't know. I feel like Negan and the governor might have it. But what do you think? I've been yapping enough. What are your thoughts?
I think that in this circumstance, being a tag team match, I think that Rick and Shane would have the edge just because they're trained to operate as a unit. They're partners. Whereas individually, the governor and Negan may be better, like hand-to-hand combatants.
They're it's like they're tag team wrestlers.
Yeah, I think
we didn't say Hulk Hogan and Macho Man here.
I think if they were, I think if they were doing a tag team bout, I think that Shane and Rick would have the advantage just because of their sheer,
I don't know, man. I feel, again, I feel like it's all circumstantial. I feel like, current Rick and a Shane that lasted that long would probably win. But I feel like they were too fresh-faced and innocent in season 2. They weren't hardened in the way that Rick is now. And I mean, I know Negan is somewhat been hardened by what he's been through as well. But I just don't feel like if we had Negan in his prime and the governor in his prime versus then I think of that because, now if you want to, now it's totally different if you want to take them all in their prime. Like take Shane at his most badass, take Rick at his most badass. Put him against the governor and Negan, I think Shane and Rick would win. But I think that if we were doing like a season 2 Shane and Rick while Shane was still alive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it really just depends on the picture you paint. Like, I mean, are we having just like a what if scenario where they're all in their most battle hardened? But in that case, I think Shane and Rick would win because by season 2, Rick hadn't gotten to the point where he'd bite somebody's throat out.
Yeah. So it would be interesting. I'm thinking
hold that son bitch down, Shane. Off the top rope, it's Rick Grimes. Oh, Negan comes in with a chair.
I mean, that's what I'm envisioning. So I think even there, it's kind of like how the Dudley boys could probably take out 2 individually good wrestlers, better wrestlers, but if they didn't have a history of being on a team together.
Well, again, we know that Negan can out-strategize Rick. I mean, because he's done it several times. Again, I go back to just the final battle. Had Eugene not had a change of heart or betrayed Negan, I mean, that was it. Yeah. Rick and everybody was dead. Negan had done the ultimate out-strategizing, but I think it. I mean, I see certain scenarios where Rick and Shane could win, but I see certain. Now I just imagine them going, clear out the barn of pleasures. King Ezekiel, get your people out. And then it's like, they turn it in. It's like everybody's outside the ring watching. It's like, in this corner, standing 5'10", weighing 150 pounds, Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
And his partner, standing at 5'11", weighing 185 pounds, just Shane Walsh. And then it's like, and this corner, 6'2", which Negan was quite a string bean when he first got on the show. In this corner, 6'2", weighing 160 pounds, Negan.
I would just like to see like the intro music cues, like they come.
Who do you think will come out to what song?
God.
Let's hear it.
Oh, man. The Governor and Negan will probably come out to...
a joint song, or we having individual songs for each one?
No. They would have like a song for the team. I think that Negan and the Governor would come out to Vince McMahon's theme music.
How does that go?
I'm trying to think because it starts... no chance. That's all that you got. No chance. Da, 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 da. No chance. Da, da, da.
Okay. And now what are Rick and Shane walking out to?
God,
Let me tell you about my best friend. He's a warm-hearted person who tried to bang my wife and kill me. Well, he did bang my wife. He's a warm-hearted person who banged my wife and tried to kill me.
I think they would probably come out to Edge and Christian's theme song. It just starts out with, it's like, you think you know me, because that was the whole relationship they had.
That's a good choice for them.
And then it's just like some weird techno.
I'm trying to pick out more mainstream songs. Like I feel like Negan and the Governor would come out to like some Hall & Oates or something.
What the fuck?
I don't know, man. Like, let me think. I could see Rick and Shane coming out to some. God, I don't know, man. I don't really know what kind of music they like. You know what I mean?
It's hard. Yeah. I don't know.
God, I could see Negan coming out to like some AC/DC or ZZ Top. Every girl's crazy about a sharp dress, man.
Well, the Undertaker used to come out to Kid Rock's American Badass.
Jesus Christ.
So maybe Negan could roll down on that on his motorcycle.
Rick and Shane would come out to Ball with the Ball. Yeah. Rick's like singing it to Shane as they come out. Ball with the Ball, Shane!
During Triple H had Motorhead do.
I don't even know what it means.
But yeah, that's a tag team thing. We should really act that out with action.
That would be funny. We should script that out and just write it out. Come on, Shane, tag me.
I'll do almost like a Robot Chicken kind of thing.
Shane's got like the wrench. It's like Negan smacks someone upside the head with the bat, but like one little whack in the middle of a fight probably. I mean, it would hurt, but it might not be a killing blow. But then it's like, oh, Negan smacked Rick with Lucille. This could be it. Out of the corner of Rich. Shane just throws that giant wrench. And he's dead because no one's going to survive that thing. I mean, I don't know if you remember that episode, but when Shane slung that giant wrench, man, that sucker had some momentum. It would have taken Rick's head clean off his shoulders.
Yeah. Good grief. But yeah, that's a tag team match I would have liked to have seen.
I don't feel like anybody would have won. Because I feel like halfway through the fight, King Ezekiel would have came out in the middle, his staff with the big dildo on top of it. Boys, this is the barn of pleasures. Now come to the top rafter, and Jerry, my trusty tiger, will tend to your wounds.
Well, professional wrestling is very homoerotic, so that's probably the way it would have went.
Roar, dude, I'll lick your wounds.
Oh, man.
Everyone, cue back up the music, dismantle this ring, and let's make love, not war. King Ezekiel would have stopped all of it. King Ezekiel would have rolled up in there and just straight up been like, why are you putting your bat to the outside of his face instead of the inside of his other parts? Take that barbed wire off and I feel like King Ezekiel would stop the fight.
Yeah, I think the bat would probably be wrapped in anal beads as opposed to barbed wire.
The whole fight, Dale's just looking from the window with Dale face judging.
This should not be on television. This is not appropriate for children. They're going to be promoting violence.
I see what kind of men y'all are. As he said, if you listen to like this regularly, you'll remember when I got the question mixed up and thought someone said, would Dale have exposed Rick or something? I thought the question was, what if Dale took Shane out in the woods and exposed himself to Shane? I just imagine Dale standing there with the Dale face to the window, and if you would have panned the camera around to the outside, his pants are at his ankles. Yeah. And he's just like lecturing the closest person to the window. This is not what civilized society does. I see what kind of people y'all are. God.
Oh, Lord in heaven. Well, we've already said we're going to have to make a part 2. What we've got left. We've got one question from Not Julian. We've got 2 from Ashley O'Neil. We've got at least about 4 from Jonas Belili. And then we've got straight up 20 from Stefan Miller.
Y'all keep all of these going. What we might start doing, just because y'all answered the call and went above and beyond, and we want you to continue loading up the Walking Dead what ifs. What we might start having to do is print these off and then throw them in like a bucket and have like a 5 or 6 per episode we'll pull, and if we don't get yours then just repost. You know what I mean? Like eventually we'll get to it. But we can definitely, for this week, we can do a part 2. Let's get like maybe one more, and then one or 2, depending on how long they are, and then we can put the rest with with the one we do on Friday.
All right, well, this is a good one from Ashley O'Neil. What if Miss Grimes / Walsh would have had Judith in season 2 and died during the delivery? How would that have Rick and Shane's relationship been different?
Oh, man, I believe Shane would straight up just try and kill Rick now because he would blame Rick for Lori's death.
Well, it's one of those things, so that they're still at Herschel's farm. I guess maybe season 2 would have extended to where she would have came to gestation or whatever. I don't know, but so Lori dies in childbirth. You've got Rick and Shane and a baby. So it'd basically be like 2 men and a baby. I don't know how that...
Shane, I think we need to go down to the Barn of Pleasures and rekindle our flame to raise this child.
Yes, because, I mean, you think, like, the thing coming between them, Lori is gone. I mean, like you said, now Shane might have just went into a rage and blamed Rick for everything.
I totally feel like...
If she just died in childbirth, I mean, that's really no one's fault.
It's not, but Shane wouldn't see it that way because his argument would have been like to Rick in that scenario. Had you have killed that prisoner instead of just shutting the door and assuming he was dead, like actually, because when he sees Andrew run outside, he just shuts the door. He's like, you better run, and shuts the door, and you hear the screams, and he thinks he died, but he should have visually, I know shit was hitting the fan. I mean, it's a high-stress situation, but he should have made sure he was dead. So Rick would have Shane still probably would have had the mindset of, it's you let him go. It's your fault that Lori died. Because if the zombies hadn't have been overrunning everything, Herschel would have been they might have been able to give her some kind of, something. Because they were prepared for the childbirth. I mean, Carol knew that a C-section was probably going to have to happen. That's why she was practicing on the zombie. And they had been to the infirmary and collected so had Lori, and I think the stress too kicked her into labor a little early. So, it's a good chance that Lori maybe would have survived the childbirth had they not been in the situation they were in.
Well, in her scenario, this is all happening in season 2. So like I said, I don't know if that means like they're on the farm longer, if maybe she got knocked up earlier, if it was a super early term thing.
Number 2, you best be pulling out in the zombie apocalypse.
I
mean, like so. you better be using some prophylactics or pull out. What are you doing, Shane?
I mean, that's good advice in the here and now, and of course after the apocalypse.
I mean, I can tell you, it's tough enough raising a child without zombies around every corner. My God.
Yeah, man. Shane was just like, man.
Shane didn't care. He was like, I'm leaving my mark on this booty. But I still think Lori dying would have sent Shane into a rage that would have put him and Rick forever at odds. Which that could have been a cool setup.
Yeah.
You could have had Lori die and Shane just is flat out villain now, but he's kicked out of the group, or maybe they get into a tussle and he barely survives and escapes, and then you just have this long-standing rivalry.
Yeah, man. It definitely would have. Yeah. Deep down, you would hope that would have brought them together, but you're right. It probably would just sent Shane over the edge.
Shane, you used to do Lori, and I used to do Lori. Now Lori's gone. There's only one thing we can do, and that's each other, brother.
I mean, the math works, you know? By the transitive property, they have had sex with each other, so let's just get rid of the middleman and do some butt stuff.
Coming out of this corner, lovers and friends, partners in more ways than just wrestling, Rick and Shane. Yeah. I love you, boo. Let's get this done. I don't know why. My Rick voice is usually like this, and I don't know today why it's so deep. Yeah, Shane.
Oh, man.
Coral, don't watch.
Oh, no.
We will share the boy. Not in a sexual way. Not in a creepy child rapey way. I mean, like co-parenting, you know.
Right, of course.
He's my son, and now he's your son, Shane. Ugh. Come here and kiss me, you bald bastard.
Yep.
No, I don't know. I feel like if Lori died while Shane was alive, there's no way Shane would have not blamed Rick. Because, I mean, he already blamed Rick for all of theirs. And, I mean, it's like Andrea said to Shane in season 2 when she's like, you know, those were all the right calls, but it's your presentation that leaves something to be desired. I mean, a lot of times Shane was not – Shane, by all accounts, I don't think Shane would have been a great leader, but Shane definitely – would have been good to have in your corner on some because I mean he knew sometimes that you couldn't be, this wasn't civilization. I mean now, because I do feel like had Randall escaped, I mean Randall was a little bitch. I feel like Randall would have totally tried to find his group, and if they hadn't, because Randall don't care that they left him, because that was, you know, Rick's argument was they left him for dead. You know, no one's looking for him. You know, blah 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 blah. But Randall didn't care.
No.
Randall didn't care if they. I mean, he would have just been happy to be in any group that could have protected him. Man. And you think, I mean, this group just left you and made you feel invaluable. But how valuable will you become if you come tell them, hey, there's a farm full of supplies and women and
absolutely,
you know,
we'll let them back.
And he knows. So I think, you know, and I did feel bad for Randall because at the end of the day, bitch or not, Randall was just a kid caught up in this shit. I mean, he's a young adult, but I mean, he is just still this little kid that probably was a bitch and. You know, all of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, I kind of agree with Shane. I totally see the reservations and why Dale was thinking the way he was. But when you look at the situation, man, Randall had to go. Or either you just had to keep him prisoner long enough to either you trusted him or, you know, whatever. But Randall had to go. But yeah, as we get close to wrapping this up, we just want to take a second to thank you guys so much for leaving these questions. And, you know, when we started Walking Dead What Ifs, we were definitely thinking more of like little quick bites of like, what if Andrea never met Michonne? Or, you know, something that you can pretty much nail down in like 5 minutes. But it's very flattering and awesome that you guys, some of you, take the time to write out these huge scenarios. So we're not skipping them because they're unimportant or we don't feel like answering them. It's just that to get as many in as we can, we're already well over an hour. Yeah. So, you know, and we're doing this kind of as a lunch break at work. So, you know, it's hard to fit it in to do more than an hour, but we're going to do one on Friday, and please continue to do that. It's very awesome to know that we've, you know, got this community of people that are that dedicated to even something as simple as Walking Dead What Ifs. So please continue to leave them. Please continue to paint these scenarios. And, you know, we're definitely going to rehash this on Friday. Pick up what we left off.
We certainly will. We surprise. Well, I guess not surprise since we're telling you now. But yeah, Friday podcast resuming where we left.
Act surprised.
Yeah.
Act surprised. But, and yeah, also, too, you know, remember, get your questions in. We might have to do either one really long one next week or divide it up into 2 as well, because next week's going to be the last week for a while.
For a while, yeah.
You know, until World Beyond goes off. So, I mean, it's going to be a while before we get back to Walking Dead What If. So make sure you get your questions in there. And the good thing is it's good to take a break from stuff, you know. So Walking Dead What Ifs are fun. We enjoy them. But it'll be nice to take a break from it and get back to talking about Walking Dead show. And then you will be really excited to jump back onto it, because then we'll have even more what ifs from like the finale and the world beyond. It's,
I'm stoked for what's coming up.
I'm just not stoked to know that how our apocalypse coexistence is going to play out.
Hey man, I got to take the best deal.
I would have died to save JP before this podcast.
Even if there were pickles involved,
dude. I don't like pickles more than you.
Oh, shit.
It would have to be like now tacos.
Yeah, see,
if the governor was like, brother, you kill him, I'm going to hook you up with as many tacos as your heart desires. I love you, JP, but tacos, man.
I mean, look, it's understandable.
Or if Negan was like, I cooked the most medium rare ribeye you have ever seen, brother. We got a pasture full of cows, and we are...
No, that's what I ate last night.
Ribeye?
Sure did.
Did you grill it?
No, my girlfriend cooked it up in the frying pan.
Nice. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. Mashed potatoes, green beans. It would be
damn, you had one of them good meals last night.
Yeah.
Hot damn. But we love you. We appreciate you more than you can understand. And we'll catch the Patreon crowd tomorrow for our Patreon exclusive podcast. And then we'll catch you back here for some Weird Wednesday.
Sure enough.
If we hadn't come up with something else to talk about, then we can easily continue the simulation conversation, because that is one of my favorites.
It's a good one.
So, yeah, we'll see you soon. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. Subscribe. Tell them,
and
JP.
like.
Subscribe. And like. Yeah.
And comment. Do that too. And share. Sharing's important.
Sharing is caring. If you enjoy this podcast, don't you want your friends to enjoy it with you?
On your Facebook and on your Instagram and all this stuff.
Yeah, on your Pornhub account. We don't care.
Please
share it wherever.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Your throat hurts because I ripped it out.
No use.